Thank you very much for this opportunity to share again some other thoughts and overall experiences with you. As I told you this morning, in Belgium, the Black Lives Matter movement crystallized the tensions over the symbols of colonization, and starting with the figure of Leopold II. Then the parliamentary commission that has been set up poses one fundamental question, which is, how can we represent the past when it continues to divide? And this is actually the question that has guided all my research over the past 20 years. And personally, I consider research and life actually as a treasure hunt, un jeu de piste in French. So what I suggest is that I would like to invite you for a walk, like in a treasure hunt. And the starting point of this treasure hunt is a thesis devoted to the uses of memory in international relations. A long time ago, it was about the Franco-German and the Franco-Algerian relationships. And what is interesting is that it was only 10 years after this PhD that I finally understood why I was passionate about the topic. I discovered at that time, after many detours, I have to say, a secret part of my family history. A murdered ancestor, his body burned without any grave, and a distress affecting several generations in my own family. I then understood actually in my flesh that after a war, one does not count in years, but in generations. It is from a generation to the next that people transmit not only narratives, silences, but also, and above all, emotions. Anger, resentment, shame, guilt, sadness, humiliation. And the most tragic cases I have observed in the field, while I was in Rwanda especially, concern situations where these types of emotions was transmitted without the text. It means without the stories that go with the emotions, without the explanation, if you want. And in this kind of situation, I think that Victor Hugo, the French writer, was right. He wrote that the dead are invisible, but they are not absent. Les morts sont invisibles, mais ils ne sont pas les absents. And to most Belgian citizens, this topic concerns only distant post-conflict zones in Africa, in the Great Lakes, in South Africa, or in the Balkans, like in this caricature made by Plantu. So in the newspaper Le Monde, so you can see here, I saw that it was a breakfast. I was in Groningen writing my PhD, and I saw this cartoon in the morning. I understood that it would be the red thread of my whole research until I would die. So it was in the Balkans. It represents a battlefield, and you see this soldier taking his revenge for his brother-in-law killed in 1917, and then another soldier taking revenge for his young cousin raped in 1945, and this baby thinking about taking revenge for his father in 2023. 2020, it's tomorrow for us, but at that time it was something like 2063, right? And the point that I would like to make with you today is that these questions, this topic is crucial in Belgium too, and I guess almost everywhere, unfortunately. And this is the second stage of our treasure hunt this morning, not only my little story, but the story of Belgium, which seems to me like a millefeuille of memories. Chantal this morning mentioned the lasagna in Belgium, and I am more sweet person in the sense that I heard the metaphor of millefeuille. You know, these French pastries full of layers. Why do I take this metaphor? Because I think that 3 episodes are particularly emblematic in the Belgian millefeuille, I would say. These episodes are the deepest colonization, I already mentioned that, and then the collaboration, and then the immigration layer. And what I would like to do is not to give you a talk, an academic talk, but to share 3 anecdotes, one for each layer, personal anecdotes. The first one is, I am in Kigali with one of my PhD students, a Rwandan one. This is about colonization, right? In a neighborhood a bit far away from the center. And we come across a rather old lady. She turns to me and says say a few words in Kinyarwanda. I don't understand anything. And I ask my PhD student, what does it mean? And he didn't want to answer. Then I insisted, and her words were sharp, and her gaze was very tough, very striking to me. And she was actually saying, go home, it's too late. And I took that as a blow, actually. I was perceived as a tourist, a white, a Belgian due to my accent. And so her reaction was actually not completely inappropriate, but it provoked a rift within me. Second layer, collaboration, second layer of the millefeuille, the collaboration during World War I and World War II in Belgium. And I have another encounter in mind here. It was in the context of a research conducted with families marked by collaboration. And in each family, we interviewed 3 generations of people, all right? And I remember a particular man, he was in his 60s, he was describing his beloved grandfather. He was smiling and he explained to me that this grandfather loved to play with him. Then his eyes darkened and became suddenly very sad. He then whispered that this grandfather was also a terrible collaborator. And after a long silence, as if he was completely lost, he told me slowly, since I realized that, I can no longer connect with the one who was both a wonderful grandfather and an unforgivable accomplice. Third layer of the millefeuille, completely different again, immigration, which is associated in Belgium with a kind of absent memory for generations of Belgians now. And the last anecdote is that I was at home in Brussels with a young neighbor from American origin, and he wanted to understand what my job was. So I told him about my research. It was something like, I don't know, 11, 12 years old. He is a very smart young guy. When he understood what it was about, I saw you are very interested in history. So Valerie, tell me, why don't they ever talk about my ancestors at school? Okay. And so in stressing these 3 phenomena, I'm not trying to compare them. Okay, as such, it would not make any sense. But I'm trying to bring together experiences that are symptomatic of a past, which is obviously not easily digestible. So the objective of our research with Pierre, Chantal, Juliette, and others, it's always interdisciplinary, is really to try to identify the conditions that allow us to digest this past and to unlock the future. So it's not theoretical at all. It has big, to me, huge impact on the individual level and on the political level. So let's continue for the last stage of the treasure hunt, is that I'm turning to you now, each of you. What might this mean for you? So the research that we conduct focuses on the articulation between 2 types of phenomena. First, on the one hand, the official narratives, and on the other hand, the individual memories. Rolly yesterday gave us a wonderful talk regarding the articulation between the 2 phenomena, okay? And the 2 phenomena function according to their own logics, but they feed each other. Official authorities may try to influence individual memory through textbooks, commemorations, monuments. However, they can never impose anything. So when we are exposed to official discourse, we co-construct the message which is transmitted. So we are never a kind of pure container. So we have a role to play. And a lot of students, when I tell that to them, they ask me, why wouldn't we leave the past behind? Why should we try to work on something which deeply hurts? My answer is because studies conducted over several generations in Belgium, but also abroad, show that the conflict in past does not simply fade away with the passage of time. Time is necessary to take distance, to explore violent episodes, but as such, it does not heal anything. Rosie told us that with the past doesn't heal us yesterday as well. And so, even if the episodes are sometimes very old, this is a graffiti on a wall in Los Angeles made by an Armenian descendant a century ago. Our wounds are still open, and I would even say are still festering. It's more than open, right? So the question to me is not whether, but how, and above when. I don't have time to answer to address the two questions now, but I have two papers that I prepared to send to those who are interested and available to read them on these specific questions. What I would say now is that the goal to me of my whole research and a lot of things that I do in my private life is to abandon a kind of pedestal in order to tell the story in another way, in order to tell it from the point of view of the other as well. And I would like, so this is about timing, but timing after a war looks like this timing, very long years and generation. It's an ongoing process, a never-ending process, probably an unfinished business. And I would like, because changes of attitude, beliefs, and emotions take time. And the metaphor that I would like to finish with is a metaphor that came to my mind while I was visiting Koblenz. Some of you are familiar with Koblenz, if I'm not wrong. So I was invited there to give a talk a couple of years ago, and I visited the city, which is a beautiful one. And you know, you probably know where the Rhine and the Mosel meet. Everybody was taking a look as tourists, and then it was striking to me the fact that the two rivers, if you take a look at least this is what I saw, the two rivers keep their own colors for a long time. Actually, you clearly see a more green and a more blue rivers. I mean, together but coexisting, I would say, but not mixed right away. And so to me, when I saw that, I thought, but actually the people who were affected by wars look a bit like these trees. They cannot get along quickly or immediately together. And so maybe it's like the pyramid of the group interactions that Paul showed us this morning. You cannot start directly by exploring the issues, okay? You have contact, you have the layers. So if I want maybe just to close that, what keeps what keeps me going on this path is the fact that to me memory work is like walking in the mountains. That's what I do the whole summer in the Alps. It is long, it is slow, you have difficult passages, but these efforts allow for a progressive widening of the horizon, and it offers eventually extraordinary views that were not even expected. Or at least this is the feeling I have each time I reach the top. So it's a huge challenge, but it's a fascinating one, and I would say keep that in mind to go on. Thank you very much. I hope I was not too long.